You are now listening to the Minority Trailblazer podcast. Let the story begin.
One time for the lovers, two times for the ladies, three times for the brothers, four times for the babies. Do you love her? 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 One time for the lovers, two times for the ladies, three times for the brothers, four times for the babies. Do you love her? 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 Brown skin, love her brown skin, love her brown. Brown skin, love her brown skin, love her brown. She my brown skin, love her brown skin, love her brown. She my brown skin, love her brown skin. Hold me down.
Welcome to the Minority Trailblazer podcast, and I'm your host, Greg, the culture change agent. You already know on this show we interview young, successful minorities in a variety of fields to educate, empower, and inspire our current and future generation of leaders. And you already know I got a show for you today, but before we get in there, I got something on my heart that I have to say. Thank you for every single person that retweeted, shared, commented, attended, tried to attend, shared with a colleague, lifted me up in prayers as we finished our Minority Trailblazer tour at North Carolina A&T State University a few days ago. It's an overwhelming feeling to believe, like a couple months ago, I had never even been to Houston. I haven't been to the West Coast, and we've been able to go to 9 cities, 8 different states in a matter of 4 months and impact almost 1,000 lives. I never could have imagined that. And there's a nugget in there for some of you that are starting, some of you that's been in the game, about playing big. When I first had this idea about going on tour, people said, no, you should just do one event. I said, I want to do a whole tour. I didn't have no money. I just had a dream, I had belief, and I had support from a select group of family and friends. And we embarked on the thing. We sold tickets before we had the venues. We showed up at places and it was like, yo, the event about to start, like 5 people there. And at the end, it was like 55, 60 people. I mean, we just kept living on faith, kept living on faith, kept living on faith. And now we entered a first U.S. tour. I couldn't, like, the beginning of the year, I was a teacher. And this full context, I've been professional speaking for 4 years. And while teaching, I was also doing things. But still, it's just things can come fast, things can change quickly, and that's why I love so much about North Carolina A&T's podcast, because I had Morgan Cannell and James Murchison on the line, and early this year they were going through some troubling situations, and then Morgan now on one of the biggest radio hip-hop stations in North Carolina, holding on a major shift, and King James 919 is traveling all across the world, and for those of you who don't know, he was on my earlier podcast when he had a clothing company. Closed the clothing company, started cooking, and I'm telling you, all across the world, cooking for individuals. And you can check him out at King James 919. But man, it was crazy after the event. Man, people were crying. I was just very emotional because we really jumped into some deep things, and that's why I'm so excited just to continue on this podcast and just everything, man. Because the fan base, the support system, I call them family. I call y'all trailblazers. Y'all hold it down. Y'all real authentic people, and I respect that. I live that. I love that. And before we end, I want to say a couple things. Over the next 4 months, I'm going to do a specific portion of this podcast. Every single guest on the show is going to be a speaker or presenter at my first ever Minority Trailblazer Conference, which is March 9th and 10th, 2018 at the Durham Convention Center. You need to register online today. Register online, get your money right. I think the first thing is like $150 for tickets, and then they escalate. So, but you need to register online because this is going to be one of the most powerful, inspirational, actionable conferences of 2018. Hands down. I don't usually brag on my product like that, but when I tell you, if you attended a stop on the tour, imagine that times 10. Imagine that with an action plan. Imagine that with workshops. Imagine that with some of the best, most notable people in the game that's in their niche, giving step-by-step of how they did it, why they did it, and how they're going to continue to do it. And you don't see nothing out there like that. So I'm really, really excited to bring such an authentic, transparent, and powerful conference to the world. And yo, I need to see you in the building. But I say all that to say, every single week we'll have a speaker and we'll be talking about different topics. We'll have audience engagement, and every Saturday we will have an open Q&A. I'm not sure if I'm going to make it Zoom, webinar, Skype. I'm not sure. But we'll have an opportunity to interface, ask questions, and build that community with the speakers that we have. We've never done that on the Minority Trailblazer. Y'all have never submitted questions, and I want to take that to the next level. So please, 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 next Thursday, we're gonna be embarking on a new journey. So rock with us there. So make sure you continue to share this podcast with your friends. I mean, I got people from Australia. I see you. Africa, the UK, out there in Washington, so many other states that support the movement. So I appreciate y'all. Oh, by the way, make sure if you have not copped some Minority Trailblazer merch, go to minoritytrailblazer.com and find that. And yo, just keep supporting the wave, man. I believe in y'all. I thank y'all for believing in me. So without further ado, let's jump into this episode. When I tell you this is one of the best episodes of season 4, and let's get it. Yo, Minority Trailblazer fan base, people that listen and tune in every single Thursday. I know Friday, I know Monday, because I've been on tour, so these ain't been coming out every Thursday. Sometimes you get on a Friday, Saturday morning. Hey, we gonna get back on track sooner or later. But today I have a phenomenal guest, man. I connected with him like last year on LinkedIn, and I've always had the talent and know who got the sauce, who got the glow, what person, what innovator, what young cat is really going to do some things on the next level. And I'm just blessed because he's been doing things for the last 4 or 5 years on a very, 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 very high level. I think this is maybe the second college student we've ever had on the podcast. Last year we had Austin Ogletree, who delivered a phenomenal message on the podcast. Shout out to Austin out there in Microsoft. And today we got a young guy, man, that I'm telling you, just back to back hackathon champ, just want him and his team. So make sure they're gonna get shout out in this podcast as well. But 40 grand just accomplished, 11 offers. I mean, Black Enterprise, HBCU Buzz. When I look at North Carolina A&T's website, or when I go on the campus, I'm like, yo, he's everywhere, like leaned up against a tree or hands folded on his back on the grass. Like he's the spokesperson, one of the spokespeople for North Carolina A&T, man, in computer science, and one of the most humble and down to earth guys I know. Mark this in my words, Minority Trailblazer listeners, is already a game changer, but it's going to be one of the lead trailblazers in the entrepreneurship space, in the corporate space, in just the everything space, man. Sky's the limit. But let me just read his bio, and then we gonna jump in. And side note, this is a perfect podcast for you parents out there. They got these high school kids. They need an example. They need some real talk stories. Boom. Perfect podcast if you're a college student that's trying to work for like the Apples or the Googles or the Microsofts or the Sams, the Oracles of the world. Shoot, he's worked with half of them anyway. So this is for you, for the young professional. This is a great podcast to listen to, just to kind of see what the wave is, how people are moving in this space, and some tools and tips and resources that he's using to land these jobs at these top tech companies. And last but certainly not least, my seasoned professionals that hold their podcast down, a lot of stories. This is just a great thing just to listen to a young guy that is out here getting it. So he is a senior computer science student at North Carolina Agricultural and Technical State University from Stone Mountain, Georgia. And so far, he has had the privilege of working at NASA, Oracle, Sam's Club, Apple, and for his university as a web developer at a research lab. And he's also a teaching assistant for a data structures course. Outside of coding, he's also a musician of 11 years with experience on the alto, saxophone, French horn, and flugelhorn. Prior to attending college, he originally wanted to be an architect, and the plan started shifting when he noticed how technology had affected the way architects design the structures. So I started doing research on how tech was involved, and not only this, how the industries and other industries were involved as well. So soon after, he made his decision to join the field of computer science. And upon receiving his bachelor's degree, he is going to further his education with a master's in computer science with a focus in machine learning and artificial intelligence. And he will continue to build on his extensive background and gaining more experience as a full-time career at Microsoft for the Katana team as a software development engineer. He hopes to one day start his own tech company focused on artificial intelligence. And when experienced at some of the best companies and universities in the world, he would use his wealth of knowledge to create a product or a service to make a bit easier for society and most specifically the culture, man. So I know there was a lengthy bio. And you're like, how old is this guy? This guy like 21 years old. I done said NASA. I done said Apple. I done said Oracle. I done said Sam's Club, and now have said Microsoft, man. But without further ado, I would like to introduce one of the youngest trailblazers I've ever had. Matter of fact, the youngest trailblazer I've ever had on this podcast, Brandon Long, to my Know the Trailblazer podcast. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, man. Thank you, Greg, for having me, man.
So, Brandon, man, like I said, I know we've known each other. We've been connected for I think maybe a year. I don't know how long we have been connected, but you came on radar a year ago, and I was like, yo, I'm big on LinkedIn, so I'm looking on LinkedIn. I'm like, hold up, did this dude really go to A&T? Like, I saw all these experiences, and we reached out and connected, man. And thus far, knowing you, man, you've added a lot of value, and I do not take this interview for lightly. This is not a stop field. I got like 10 interviews on ice, but I've never been excited to kind of, I'm not going to say pick your brain because I hate that, but to just discuss a couple things, discuss your journey, discuss these things, most importantly, to give it to our audience. So, man, I'm thankful that you're breaking out time to get on this phone, bro.
No, definitely. I can't thank you enough for even, reaching out to me and getting to know me just over a year ago. I mean, the past year, our relationship has really expanded a lot, and I'm really excited to be on the show today.
Oh, no doubt, man. So let's jump right into it. As always, we always start the show off with a quote, man. So, yo, share with us a quote that you live by, and share with us a specific story about how you apply that quote to your everyday life.
Yeah, man. So one that really sticks out to me is a quote from Nelson Mandela, and it reads, "Education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world." And this is really meaningful to not only myself, but my family. So I'm not sure if you know, but I'm actually a first generational college student. Mm-hmm. One of my parents ever stepped foot on a college campus prior to myself. And it's really, really meant a lot to myself and my family because just being able to get these opportunities is really, really huge for the family. And so it's meant a lot. My younger brother is now in college as well. And we're both being able to use technology to both affect our families, being able to help us financially, and being able to make an impact on the world.
So being a first generation college student, what was the first time that you realized, like, yo, that you had a different gear as far as intellectually in the educational space when you were a kid? And then two, you realize that like you're going to have these opportunities, but it's something that your parents never had.
Yeah. So I guess, as a kid, it was really when I first got into engineering. Like I said, like you mentioned in the bio, architecture. So we got exposed to AutoCAD in high school and being able to play around with different structures and stuff. I mean, that was amazing to me. And I knew that was something that my parents had not experienced before. But then when I got to university, it really expanded a lot because I got open to the idea of working at these major corporations and being able to impact them just as a little kid, coming out of Stone Mountain, Georgia. So it was really a really huge experience. And, it's all a big thanks to my university, North Carolina A&T State.
No doubt. And what are your parents like? Let's take us back to your childhood before we get into the nitty gritty. Take us back to your childhood, man, your upbringing, and what did your parents do?
Yeah. So my father, like I said, although he didn't go to a university, he's one of the best entrepreneurs I've ever witnessed. I mean, this man, he's done everything from putting fences on the side, putting signs on the side of the road for marketing other businesses to striping and asphalting the parking lots and truck driving. And now he's actually doing his own bath remodeling business, Upscale Bath Solutions, right there in Covington, Conyers, Georgia. I mean, this man literally from the ground up has done his own thing, business cards, website, done it all. And so that's really inspired me on my entrepreneurial aspect and being such a hard worker just from watching my dad. My mother, she's been working in retail for probably almost 20 years now. She's actually at TJ Maxx out in Snellville, Georgia. And so she's been there for years and years, been there going to the Boy Scout meetings, the PTSA meetings, the whole nine. So both my mom and dad have been in my life, and it's really been impactful and making me who I am today. Man,
that's huge. That's huge. I think you said something critical. Matter of fact, we got some similarities because my mom, she worked in retail for a while, and then my dad, he drives trucks, so he's an entrepreneur as well, first generation as well for me, man. And I think before we kind of get into the nitty gritty, I want I want to talk about something real quick because I run every day just to start off, just to get my pulses running. And I was thinking about, I always get messages when I walk, like messages in my head, cause I speak. So I'm always thinking about new content. And I think one thing that is critical that if you're a parent, if you're a student here, from your parents, you really technically probably weren't supposed to be this astute maybe in school, or maybe specifically in computer science, right? You weren't handpicked to work at these top companies in the world, but what your parents did not give to you from an educational perspective, they gave to you in a mentality. Right. And I try to tell people all the time, it don't matter for the most part about your GPA, about how you look, where you come from, all that stuff. They do, like, they do play a part. Let's be real. As people of color, at certain things, we are marginalized. But one thing you can control, and one thing that is transferable, if you're a parent out there, one thing that is transferable is mentality. Right. That's what supersedes everything. So, Brandon, can you tell what mentality did you get from your parents that transferred to you being able to navigate the way you have been able to navigate thus far in your career?
I mean, I think, and I'll pick this from my dad the most, it's just understanding that you're not going to be given everything. You got to go get it. And so despite where you come from, that doesn't make where you're going to go. And so I can speak on my dad specifically. You know, he grew up in a single parent household, several siblings. And so, you know, he didn't have a father to give him a lot of the advice that a lot of young men need in their life, but that didn't stop him from going on to become an entrepreneur and being a great father. And so same for me, my father didn't have collegiate experience or huge corporate experience, but that doesn't stop me from doing that and making a difference for my family. You know what I'm saying? So it's really just to show that, you know, you don't have to come from a household where everyone's got it all to go get it yourself. You know, that just makes it another barrier for you to break, so that you're you make a difference for your family.
And I want to ask this specifically so right now, I want you to imagine if I'm a parent, right? And I got a high schooler and I haven't went to college, or I have went to college, but I want my son or daughter to do well in whatever they choose. What direct advice would you give them if I was a parent on the line? Just a couple key things that they should be doing, they could be doing, as far as if they had a child in middle school, high school, whatever, to make sure that the child is engaged and involved and encouraged.
Right. I think what parents should keep in mind is that you can't force things onto their children, but definitely keep the idea or the option there for them to do it. So I know one thing my parents never did was they never said you have to go to college. You know what I'm saying? They never said that you either go to college or I'm going to kick you out this house. That was never something they did. Some parents have that mentality and, you know, they're very forceful and it may work, but, you know, I don't think that's always the best route. As long as the opportunity is there, you know, to say, hey, I think this is a very great opportunity for you. College can make a difference. And they're at least presenting the opportunity to them. I think that's a great start. And also showing that, you know, if they did have struggles in life, having the opportunity to go to college could have made a huge difference for them. And so showing that having what we have today in society is a big difference from what they had back when they were younger really helps to persuade students to say, hey, you know, I don't want to have to struggle the way my parents did. Let me go to college and get this opportunity, get this education so I can make a difference for my family. So it's really just being able to tell your child and present to them to say, hey, you know, in order for you to live better than I did, you might want to go take this opportunity. You know, you might not want to sit around and play games all day, because that's not going to it's not going to really make a living unless you get into game development, of course. But everybody's story is going to be different. And, you know, everybody reacts different to different upbringings and whatnot. So it just depends on really the kind of child you have and what they react to the best.
Yeah. And if you had to give one thought to a high school, and I know young professionals, hey, hold tight. We getting there, but I want to say something right now while we early in the podcast. If you had to say something, because I have a lot of high school listeners out there, as far as passion, because I know that's cliche, hey, find your passion, whatever, but what are some things like matter of fact, here's a better question. What type of things did you do in high school that now as a senior at North Carolina A&T, a guy that just received 11 offers, a guy that just won $40,000 in this competition with his team, like what transferable skills did you develop in high school that are transferable today, and how did you go about developing them?
Right. So when I was in high school, band was life. All I did was band practice. I went to class, got my A's and B's, and I went to band practice. That's what I did till 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night. And that's really one of the big reasons why I came to A&T, but we'll get to that a little later. But being a leader in the band helped me to become a leader in the college, and, up next will be in the corporate America. But when I came to campus, a couple of my student organizations that I'm a part of, or one of them specifically, didn't exist. And so going into my sophomore year, after talking to some professors, that was something that they said, hey, we think you should do this. And immediately I took over that and became the leader of that. And now that organization is prospering on campus right next to NESB and the other organizations we have on campus. And so that's something that was definitely transferable just from being in the marching band and being a leader in the band, and getting that leadership experience. Aside from that, I was also in Boy Scouts. And so that's also a really great organization that I use to gain a lot of leadership skills, a lot of survival skills, being able to, make fires and things of that nature. But there's a lot of responsibility that comes with being in these organizations that can easily become transferable throughout your collegiate journey.
Yeah, I think something that you made clear was, and I hope nobody misses, this is for everybody, is that you modeled the behavior that you wanted to see. And you not say like, okay, listen, as far as creating, innovating. You didn't say, well, I'm gonna wait till I got $100,000 budget to be innovative. I'm gonna wait till I have a Apple company to throw out this idea. No, you said, yo, I see there is a gap as far as organizations. Let me create it. When you were in the band, you said, okay, let me be a leader within the band. That doesn't mean that you were leading the band. That means you may be a leader in your section. Maybe that was you were a leader in far as the way you operated within practice or the way you prepared. I think a lot of people see leadership as a title. Leadership is not a title. Leadership, of course, is a mentality. You have a leadership mentality. What does that mean? I'm showing up on time. But when I am, wherever I do show up, I'm organized. I'm prepared. Those type of mentalities, when you are not a leader, will allow you to become a leader. And when you are a leader, it will allow you to be an effective leader. Because there's three different things, right? So I think a lot of people get caught up in this title. Okay, I'm going to wait till, like for that high school student say, I'm going to wait till I get into college to do X. Or that young adult that says, I'm going to wait till I get into this company to do X. Nah. You need to operate whatever lane you are in right now. Operate is the same way, because things don't change. That's why I think a biblical perspective is like, okay, and I don't want to lose too many people, but say, for instance, if I'm in budget, if I can't manage $10, then what do you think? You think I'm gonna be able to manage $1 million? It's like, for real? So I think we understand that practically in finance, but if we to put it in life, right? If we cannot handle one business, if we cannot handle even one friendship or relationship, do you think we can go out here and handle businesses with multiple Fortune 500 companies, and you can't even stay solid with your 2 clients, and you want to deal with a Fortune 500 company? Because when I first started speaking, I was pissed because I said, man, I want to be on Steve Harvey. I want to be on Oprah. I want to get gigs. I worked in corporate America. I know how to train in corporate. Why is no corporate people bringing me in to train or work with the interns? I wanted to work with the big companies, get the big dogs. I ain't had no contract. I didn't have that expertise. I didn't have that background, but I had to realize, okay, let me just stay faithful to this elementary school. They just go into the classroom with no cameras and just do it. Let me stay faithful to this middle school, this classroom, not the auditorium, the classroom. And it's not even a whole classroom, just like 4 or 5, right? And now we can go and we can do the colleges, but I don't want to get on the rant. Let's go right here. Why A&T?
Man, so yeah, as I said, band was life back in high school. And when you're in high school band, you've got these competitions outside of just the football game. So we came up for this national competition. It was at Johnson C. Smith University. And sure enough, we had a guest band come perform, and it was the baddest band I'd ever seen. And Blue and Gold Marching Machine. I mean, they came out here. The dance team Golden the Light was out here twirling fire.
Hey, when I saw Golden the Light, I said, I'm going to A&T.
Man, they came out twirling fire, flames everywhere. I said, boy, this school is lit, like literally. And so, at that point, I was still, interested in architecture, and the only HBCU that really stood out that had architecture was FAMU. And at that time, FAMU's band was real nice to me as well. I really wanted to be in their band, but they went through some struggles that caused the band to be put on suspension, and so they didn't have a band anymore. And then A&T popped up, and I was like, wow, this is beautiful. And then I switched over to computer science, and I was like, who's got the best computer science program? And that was A&T. So it was an all-in-one package for me. Computer science, marching band. I was like, boom, this makes sense. And so A&T was the school I wanted to go to. I applied for 3 colleges just for backups, honestly, but I knew I was going to A&T. Applied, came up to the orientation date, and I was like, yeah, this is it. This is perfect.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it, man. So question. I'm doing a little bit of research, and let's jump right into the nitty gritty. You had an internship your freshman year at A&T, right?
Right. I did.
How did you go about like even getting it? Because like I said, your background, you didn't come from corporate background. Like that, there wasn't no. So take us through understanding how you got it, and then the principles you use to secure it, and look through it through an optics of, because there's some people out here that not even students, but just adults that are looking for jobs, they're looking for opportunities, and you not ever even being in that background were able to not only find opportunity, but then secure it and then do well at it. So man, walk us through that.
Right. So coming to college, I didn't know anything about this internship game. Like I didn't know you needed that to graduate. My fall semester, A&T kept sending these emails about a career fair. I didn't even go. I didn't go to the first semester career fair. I didn't, I was all band. I didn't think about that. Spring semester rolled around, and I was like, let me go to this career fair. It sounds cool. I went to it, and I was walking around. Of course, a lot of companies are saying, you're a freshman, come back next year. Even one guy, he pulled me over. I didn't even stop at his table. He stopped me and was like, Brandon Long, you're going to be interning here next summer. And I was like, what, really? I'd never heard of the company. I mean, it didn't make any sense to me. And so I didn't gain anything from that career fair necessarily. But a few weeks later, I got an email from a woman in our department who's always sending out opportunities. And she's great. Her name is Miss Rosemary Williams. And she's probably one of my favorite people here on campus. A really great person. But she sent out this opportunity about an internship at NASA. But I've never had any interest in working at NASA. Didn't know anything about them besides spaceships and going to outer space. I got this email, and it said it was open to freshmen. I was like, okay. And what did it need? All they needed was a resume. And I was like, I can send you that. So I sent my resume in. Next thing I know, they want to do a Skype interview. I'm like, okay, well, I don't know anything, but we'll do it. And we hop on the call. It was all behavioral, just talking about.
Side note. How did you prepare for it? Because I don't want to gloss over that. Did you not prepare for it, or did you think through it through your freshman year mind?
I mean, as a freshman, it's like, this is my first interview. I had a part-time job in high school working at a clothing store, just like my mom, Marshall's. Yeah. And, that's all I had really. And so when people say behavioral interviews, I did some research on the questions they might ask. And it was always, tell me about a time when you did this and that. And so my only situations were marching band and Marshall's clothing store. So, I just reevaluated what I did in both of those organizations and utilize those situations. So at this time, I hadn't gone through any coaching about using SWOT analysis or STAR methods and all this other stuff that really helps prepare students. But all I had was I worked at Marshall's, I was in the marching band, and I've gone through one semester of college. That's all I had. And so when I got to the interview, I looked at the job description, and it was talking about some Microsoft Office stuff, some real basic information that was really not even relevant to computer science. And so I was like, well, I know this stuff. Let's go into it. So it was 3 guys on the call and myself. A little intimidating, but, I just went with the flow. And they asked me a few questions about, projects I worked on in school. And that was about it. I didn't have to write any code or anything. I think they knew as a freshman that I didn't have a lot of coding experience. But, having that leadership experience outside of college, pre-college, and being in a marching band, that was enough for them. And so, about a week later, got a call back. You got the internship. I'm like, what?
Wow.
I'm like, what? That's it? It was really, really effortless, amazing to me. Now, I can't say the same for all of my other interviews, but this one alone was probably one of the most simple processes I'd ever experienced in getting an internship.
Wow. For NASA.
For NASA. And it was crazy. Now, there was a caveat to that. NASA wasn't paying me. It was a partnership. So A&T had a partnership with a contracting company who happened to have a contract with NASA. That's what put me down at the Space Center, Kennedy Space Center in Florida. So on the resume, it says NASA. That's all that matters. I worked down there at Kennedy Space Center. And so I wasn't building any rockets or anything. I was building a web application for the finance department. But at the end of the day, I had NASA on my resume. And so
then
now
the sky's the limit.
I mean, yeah, when I go see students now, freshmen, it really boggles me when they say, I'm only going to apply for Apple because that's where I want to be. And you hit on this earlier. I mean, it doesn't matter. I mean, I hit on it as well, but I mean, where you start, it's not going to be where you end. And you have to, it's stepping stones to this. So like you said, you aren't going to start off on Steve Harvey's level. You're going to start off speaking to elementary groups. For me, NASA still is a great place to be, but that was a stepping stone to get to where I am now, going to Microsoft. You know what I'm saying? So I tell students now, I say, cast your net as wide as possible, because where you start is not going to be where you end. So you might go to work for NASA, or you might work for Cisco or wherever else. That might not be where you want to be, but having that on your resume is a huge difference from having McDonald's, Publix, or wherever else as a cashier on your resume.
I think you hit on it. Let's stay in the flow. Quick segue. He said something deep. A lot of students at universities, and specifically, this is for college students right here. A lot of opportunities come right to your email, and you look right past them. You don't even check your email. Like, I know people that college students don't even check the email, and then they complain when they broke. Like, are you serious? There'll be scholarships in emails. There'll be opportunities in emails, programs that you need to be at, and you just don't go. You don't go. You just don't do it. And it boggles me. Like, does that ever boggle you? Be like, there's people that that like, they're good people. Like, no disrespect them. They're great students, good people. But they don't even, like, right now they're chilling, and they don't have nothing secured after graduation. And it's like, but there's opportunities out there.
It's frustrating. It's frustrating, man. I'm like, yeah, I never understood how you can come to A&T, you're in a lucrative field, and you walk away with no offers, no opportunities, because there are just so many of them at this university because of who we are and our reputation. It's really, it doesn't make any sense to me. Yeah. I don't know.
So I just challenge y'all, for y'all college students. Hey, start opening your email, man. Start opening your email. I think you said something deep too, and it's gonna make more sense when we segue. But let's talk about, so you went NASA, and first and foremost, what was your biggest takeaway from NASA? That experience.
The experience was really, really nice. That's when I really realized that we are a huge minority. I've always gone through a predominantly black school, through grade school, A&T's, HBCU. And when I got to that job, myself and the other few Aggies there, we were the only black people there. And, that's been a consistent theme through all my other experiences, but that was the first time that I really saw that in person. And so, now when I came back to university and got into my student organization that I brought on campus, I'm starting to preach the gospel. You need to get out here. Yeah. There's no black people in tech at all. And so to be in this major as computer scientist, as a black person, that's game changing. That's world changing. And so now we have to make a difference. And so that's probably was one of my biggest takeaways, that I don't want to be a NASA. Honestly, for me, it wasn't what I was most interested in. But again, it was a stepping stone. It was experience that has helped to, project me everywhere else.
Yep. I think you said something deep there, but I'm just going to let that sit. So let's talk about, so now you went to NASA, then the next year you went to Oracle, and you were there for a whole year?
A whole year.
So how did you even get about that experience? Like, how'd you find it out? Like, where did that come from?
So this is, I was at NASA, and I was watching Apple's Worldwide Developer Conference online at NASA. And so people, if you're in the tech community, that's like a really big conference you're going to follow up on. And so we're at work watching it. And at the end of that conference, I'm like, I want to work at Apple. I want to go there. And so I went on their website, and I started looking around, and I was like, they don't come to A&T, but they go to NC State. So, when school started back up, I kept in line with their career fair and our career fair. I went to ours, but I also drove that hour down to Raleigh.
Wow.
And I went to today's career fair. And when I tell you, their career fair was out of this world, it was for engineers only. It was 2 days long. I had never seen anything like it before, but Apple was there, and I was going there for Apple. I got an on-site interview, on-campus interview with them, but I didn't get it. But I also got an interview for Oracle. And so Oracle wasn't my target, but Oracle was there. And, you know, I had the GPA for them. They had a minimum requirement. I met it. I interviewed. They invited me to the Cary office in North Carolina, and I ended up getting a co-op with them, an 8-month co-op. And so I was with them from January of 2015 all the way until August. And I took a whole semester, or I took an online semester of classes, but I was physically driving to Raleigh every day. And then at the end of that August, they were like, you want to work remote? I was like, sure. So I kept my full-time employment all the way into December of 2015.
Wow. Like, there's so much stuff to take away from that. I hope y'all not missing it. Like, you drove. So what made, like, seriously, what possessed you to say, cause I ain't gonna lie, I think I'm an innovative person, but I never thought, and I really stopped going to career fairs after sophomore year cause I did MLT and all that good stuff, and you did as well, but what drove you to drive an hour to a different career fair? Cause most people, they think, man, if the company's not here, or if the company does come to my thing, that's good enough. Like, what in your head was like, yo, bump it. I'm gonna drive to NC State, a campus. You didn't ask nobody. You didn't ask for permission. You just went ahead and did it. Like, what drove you to do that?
I did say that. I did check to make sure I could go. I didn't want to drive an hour and get turned around, but I did check. It was really when I saw their lineup, I had never seen it before. Now A&T has the same lineup, which is, I'll get to that later. But at the time, A&T didn't have this lineup of tech companies. I mean, Microsoft was there, Facebook was there, Oracle, you know, the whole nine. And so when I saw that, and I was like, yo, I need to be here. And so, and I drove out there. I talked to the companies I could. Some wouldn't let me because I didn't go to NC State. That's all good. But Oracle took me in. I was like, this is one of the number one software companies in the world, top 10, top 5, whatever. And, you know, they gave me an offer. I'm not going to say no to that. And so it was, you know, it was worth it. Now I promo our career fair. I promo NC State. I promo every opportunity that I see and find because I want students to jump on them and be better than me. That's crazy.
Yeah, man. So what would you like? Let's go back to the one thing. What was the one thing that you took out of your experience at Oracle?
Oracle, I got to experience working with a much larger team. And this is where I really got into like a real software engineering role. I mean, shipping code, editing existing code. I mean, this really got me into my engineering mindset. At NASA was more so web developer, but here I was a software engineer doing some real stuff. It wasn't the project I had wasn't something I was passionate about. I was working on accessibility, which is great. Don't get me wrong. Basically building the software so that people with disabilities can still use it. But the project itself, it wasn't as innovative as I'd like. You know what I'm saying? So it was still a great opportunity. I would not have turned it down again if I had to do it again. Just not what I wanted to do.
I respect that. I respect that. But then I also noticed something else that was different in and I want you to speak on this, and this is going to go back to about what I spoke about this a couple weeks ago at a panel, like people look at different opportunities, and if the opportunity doesn't look like what they think it is, then they pass it, but that's probably a lot of times the opportunity you need. Why did you choose to work for Sam's? Cause I'm looking at because I mean, Sam's Club is cool, big organization, but I'm looking at, I see Apple, and we're going to get to there, but I see all these big NASA, Oracle, and all these companies. I see Sam's. I was like, okay, so what did you like? So what made you take that experience and how does that complement kind of what you do today?
So Sam's was, it was out of left field. So I was still, like I told you, I took the work from home opportunity, extending the co-op to a full year with Oracle. And I came back on campus that fall, back as a full-time in-person student. Like I said, I was co-op. It was all online classes. So I came back on campus fall 15, and I was set to graduate a semester early, which when people hear you did a co-op and you can graduate early, how do you do that? It was really weird. So freshman year, I was maxing out 18 credit hours a semester. And then I did the co-op, 18 credits online. And then I wouldn't recommend it, but I mean, I did it and it was crazy. But then that summer, I took 9 more credits online. And so just doing that put me ahead. So I had an extra semester and I was like, yo, I can either graduate fall 17. So I would have been walking this December, but I was like, I don't want to do that. I like the idea of graduating in the spring. It feels more normal, more relaxed. I mean, like everybody, we graduate spring. It just feels right.
Into the summer, yeah.
Right. So I was like, I'm not going to do that. How about I do the co-op? And so I went to A&T's Fall 15 career fair, and I was walking around. I would never thought to go to a Walmart booth. Like, why would I go there? Like, it's a retail company. And I walked up, and this man named Tosin, he's actually one of my mentors today. A really, really cool brother, man. He's amazing. I went to his booth. He stopped me, had a bow tie on, this real nice blazer. I like, man, this cat is cool. And so he was like, he's computer science. He's got great opportunity at Sam's Club. I was like, what are you talking about? And he was like, we're doing this real crazy stuff with accessibility and chatbot technology. And I was like, whoa, chatbot, that sounds cool. AI, that's up my alley. I'm interested in artificial intelligence. That's what I want to do. And so I didn't realize that the role was more so project management, but he sold the opportunity to me. He sold it. He sold it. I was like, wow, this sounds amazing. It's all expense paid. I get free, travels covered, a free apartment. What scared me was that I was going to Arkansas.
Oh, yeah.
That's what messed me up. When he said Arkansas, I was like, whoa. At the same time, I had a free semester. I was like, let's go try something new. So I get out there to Arkansas, Bentonville, Arkansas, the top left-hand corner, call it Northwest Arkansas, NWA. And, again, there's not many black people there. We had our little black network, but, the experience was very, very different. Like I said, I wasn't in the engineering side. I was on the business side, but I was still able to do my own thing kind of. So they had me build a proof of concept of this chat-bot. I called it Sammy. I mean, he was Sam's Club Sammy. And basically he was like Siri for Sam's Club. And I mean, I had a nice concept where the bot you would talk to him and say, I want to order this, put this on my shopping cart. And it automated the process of you doing online shopping using your voice. And so that was amazing to me. I'd never worked with chatbots before. And that is what pretty much I'm doing now. I did it at Apple. We'll probably get into this a little bit more next, but chatbots is all what I'm about, AI, machine learning. So it was a different experience, but it actually funneled into what I want to do in my career.
Yeah, nah, man. It makes a lot of sense. And it's crazy because you said it earlier and I said, man, that's real, because your experience in all these places it's all leading somewhere. And I tell everybody, every experience matters, regardless of the organization, regardless, like use it, like figure out how to use it. If you're working at McDonald's, think, okay, how can I use this to my advantage? If you're working at a job you hate, like what skills am I learning? Like try to think of something positive out. And I think you've shown it in your career thus far. Like most people would not, like, cause everybody, like you said, when they come into computer science, we know the giants of computer science. We don't got to mention, we know these big startups that are now huge, billion-dollar IPOs. You got the Facebook, you got the Snapchat, you got the Instagram, you got all these places. But sometimes you take the role as travel, specifically in its different experiences, man, it makes you a freaking beast, because you had the software engineer experience. And then you have project manager, and Sam's Club and freaking Walmart is one of the best operate and not, don't go left on me. I'm not talking about their practices. I'm talking about as far as business management. I mean, come on. There's no better supply system. There's no better process management system than Walmart. Like there's none. And to work for that organization from a business perspective probably just took you to a whole other level as far as you're different, because you're different than a lot of other engineers. Because I ain't gonna lie, I'm a paint engineer with a wide brush. A lot of engineers are just they're in their tech space and that's it. Like I had somebody bump into me at a coworker space this week, and he's like, man, he had all these ideas. He like one of the lead guys when the internet first came out dealing with HTML, but he didn't know how to recruit. He didn't know how to do anything as far as business development, all this stuff. So it's great that you were able to get a dual role. So fast forward, right? So we get to Sam's Club, and then you had an opportunity to work with a company that, remember, in NC State, they said, nah, they really weren't feeling you. So what did it look like to go full circle and work with a company that, remember, your freshman year, you thought you wanted to work with?
Right, man. I'm gonna squeeze in right between Sam's Club and Apple, because there's something else that really happened there that shapes where I'm going after Apple experience. So you mentioned MLT earlier, and I definitely want to hit on that. So
please do.
That summer while I was at Oracle still doing this full year experience, I got selected to be a part of a program called Management Leadership for Tomorrow, MLT for short. And this has been one of the really key organizations that has helped to get me where I'm going to after graduation. And this program, I'm always preaching about it. I mean, you get so much of that professional development experiments that really helps to shape and make a engineer more than just an engineer. And so it's a really great program, 18 months, junior to senior year. And that program really built my network to something I couldn't have ever imagined. And so when I went to that fall career fair and got the Sam's Club opportunity for the spring, I had also met someone from Microsoft. Mm-hmm. And so I went up to her booth. She grabbed my resume and said, "You're an MLT? Why haven't I spoken to you?" She put me up with an interview the next month. It was seamless. Wow. Simply because I was an MLT. I mean, I talked to her for not even 2 minutes, maybe 60 seconds, 1 minute at that career fair. And because I was an MLT, she put me up with an interview with Microsoft on campus. And so I went to that interview with Microsoft on campus a month later. And I'm going to be honest with you, it wasn't the greatest. I had to write some code by hand on paper, and I had never done that before.
Wow, on paper?
On paper. No computer, not even a marker board. We was on paper. And that was the most intimidating thing I'd ever seen before. When I didn't mention it, when I got into Oracle, I didn't have to write any code. I mean, it was mostly behavioral. They were actually teaching me in the interview. It was crazy. But this interview with Microsoft, I had to write code on paper on campus, the first interview, no behavioral. He was literally had me code. And I was not prepared for that. And so I went back to that same recruiter and I was like, I thought I was going to be doing behavior. That's what she told me. Mm-hmm. And so, she greatest recruiter I've ever met before, Keisha Epson. She's no longer a university recruiter, but man, she was the GOAT. And so I don't know what happened behind the scenes, but I was able to get an on-site interview, flown out to Seattle. I was like, man, this is beautiful. This is crazy. And so I got out to Seattle, did 4 rounds of interviews with the Bing search engine team. Next thing I know, a week later, I got an internship offer to Microsoft. I'm like, yo, this is crazy. This is amazing. This doesn't happen. And so I went on and I got the opportunity. However, prior to that month, I had also applied for this program called the Apple HBC Scholars Program with Thurgood Marshall College Fund. Mm-hmm. And so this program, another elite program, comes with $25,000 for your senior year, summer internship, like the whole 9. And so I hadn't heard back from them until way, way late in the game, like December. And so this is after I got the opportunity with Microsoft. I got an interview with Apple through the program, went through the interview process, coding a whole 9, and I got an internship with Apple. I was like, yo, this is what I've been wanting since NASA. This is 2 years ago. I wanted the Apple. I finally got it. Not only did I get that, I got $25,000. So I was in a really, really, really tight position because I really enjoyed Microsoft. And so, we went back and forth, and Microsoft was understanding because of my financial situation. And so I have a younger brother. He wanted to come to college. He wanted to come to A&T, but that was that's another out-of-state student. Mm-hmm. And so for my family, that's a huge burden. And so that $25,000 meant the difference of me covering my own senior year and my parents having to get more loans to cover me and my little brother. Mm-hmm. And so Microsoft was like, we won't hold it against you. And, I cut off the internship offer opportunity with them and went with Apple. And so I went on to Apple, and it was an amazing experience to be in the Bay. I mean, as an African-American male in the Bay, it's game changing. It's out of this world. It's rarely heard of, but it's really a great experience. And I would recommend everyone to spend at least a summer in the Bay Area. And that's
are you going to be sponsoring this? I just had a $20 cheesesteak in the Bay Area, Mr. Long. Man, like you, everybody from the Bay Area, like, yo, I get you, but what? $7,000 a month condominiums in the Bay? Where we staying at, B?
I will admit, they housing is crazy. Like, even as an intern, they had 4 of us in one unit. Uh-huh. I mean, it's crazy expensive, but the experience, I mean, if you got to go shack it up with some buddies for a month, I'd do it just to go get the experience. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, definitely want to be in the tech community if you're doing it, because you'll get compensated to do it. But I mean, that experience was out of this world. I met entrepreneurs, chief executive officers, venture capitalists. I went to an event at every company out there. I was at Instagram, Facebook, Google, YouTube. I'm just hitting everybody's offices, getting some. And the free food is out there. You just got to go get it. I
Bro,
mean,
the free food, bro. When I tell you the food, bro, I went to YouTube, son, and they had the food every. I'm talking about legit. Oh my, the best chicken breast I ever had, dog. I'm like, how much? I'm looking at the cash. I thought I'm stealing. My boy Mike was like, "Yo, G, you good?" I said, "Am I good? Am I good? I'm good."
It feels so unnatural, but I mean, yeah, Facebook's campus. You're literally at downtown Disney. The caveat is you ain't got to pay for nothing. I mean, it's out of this world. I mean, it's amazing, a beautiful place to be. Weather is 60 to 70 every day. I mean, we probably got rainy days 3 days out of the whole summer. And I mean, that was like a light drizzle for an hour and the sun came back out. Like it's a very beautiful place to be. Like I said, Apple was a great company. And I will say again, this is another place where we are a super minority. You know, the scholars alone, there's 34 of us. We probably made up a good 75% of the Black community.
Wow.
You know, if I ran into a Black person, he or she was a scholar. And so, you know, that's something I did not like. And so, one thing that really, you know, is kind of is transferring into why I'm not going back to Apple and why I'm chose Microsoft as my full time is because Microsoft, I could see them working and putting in huge strides into fixing their diversity issue. Apple, you know, they partner with Thurgood Marshall, but they don't come to A&T. You know, I didn't see him at my career fair. I saw Microsoft 4 times that semester.
Wow.
And so, you know, it really meant a lot to me at how passionate and how serious Microsoft was and is about getting more Black people and fixing, not just filling their quota, but actually, you know, putting us in a place where we need to be. You know, so that really made a difference to me. Like I said, I'm not knocking Apple. My opportunity was amazing. You know, I learned so much there. I got to work on the behind the scenes stuff with Siri, which is, like I said, again, in my pathway to where I want to be. But it just meant a big lot when I was seeing that what they were really doing with Microsoft and putting that time and effort into actually getting more of us.
Nah, I think that's huge, bro. I definitely think that's huge, man. So if you could share, man, what was the biggest or what after you were done with Apple, was the Microsoft still was it still in the air? Was it a smooth transition or did you have to re-interview?
So I went back through the process. I was fortunate enough to still work with the same hiring manager, which was really great. He did have a new team. And so I went through the interview process again, got flown out. You know, I'm not going to knock flying across the country again. So I flew back out, went through 4 interviews again. And, you know, same experience, same routine, coding on the whiteboard. And, you know, I'm thankful and very appreciative enough to say I'll be joining them on the Cortana team. And so, again, this is I'm not sure if everybody's familiar with Cortana.
We're not.
Cortana is a, he said we're not.
I think of Cortana. I think of Halo.
Man, Cortana, you know, I know a lot of people use Apple and they use Siri. Cortana is essentially Microsoft's, you know, Siri. And so they're doing some really, really amazing things with Cortana that not a lot of people are familiar with. And you know, when I heard about what I'll be doing, I was like, yo, this is legit. This is what I want to do. And so that really sealed the deal for me. And I'll be joining them June of 2018.
Man, that's huge, man. First of all, congratulations on that again. For that, man. And, I want to say too, I'm jealous because all these bruhs, I'm like, yo, I got freaking Adrian Ambrose, Jeffron Smalls, Austin Ogletree. I'm missing some. I think Brian Olds. So, bruh, I'm like, yo, and they coming out. I'm not going to put their bread out there like that. I'm like, son, what was I doing? Where was I at? Like, I wouldn't be on this podcast. I wouldn't be speaking I wouldn't be selling, but I wouldn't be doing none of this stuff. Cause I came out, we making like 60 in finance, but I wish Microsoft was around when we was there. I be talking with bros. I'm like, yo, like what in the world? I definitely would have been on that train. But that's you. And they got like a crib together now. So they not, will you be in Seattle?
I'll be right outside. I'll be in Bellevue, Washington.
Okay. So that's, first of all, man, that's freaking awesome, man. So let's go to current day, man. So talk to us. I want you to talk about two things before we jump into our last part of the interview. Two things. First, I want you to talk about the program that you do at A&T, the organization, the programming. I think you do weekly or bi-weekly. So I want you to talk a bit about that. And then I want you to also talk about your last experience at the hackathon and, winning 40,000, but not more so just experience winning, but the preparation that goes into it. What is a hackathon? Cause for our non-tech people, cause I never understand people like, oh, my hackathon. Like, what the heck is a hackathon? Like, what do you do? And like, how do you win? Like, what in the world? So talk to us about the hackathon as well as the organization that you started on campus, how it has grown, and, the importance for anybody that's listening on creating your own opportunities.
Definitely. So we'll start with the organization. So, yep. Like we said, coming after NASA, I started the organization on campus as a sophomore, and the organization is called the Association for Computing Machinery. Basically, we're the super nerds, the computer scientists, computer engineers, the smartest folks on campus. I'm not trying to brag, but we do all the techie stuff. And so this organization, like I said, it existed prior to me coming to A&T, but somewhere between 2013, 2014, it fell off. And so, I brought it back. I held an interest meeting fall of 2015, and literally 4 people beside myself showed up. 4 people. I mean, it was crazy. I didn't know what to do. I never, started an organization. I didn't know what it was like to have a student org on campus. It was crazy. And we took it took us about 8 months from that August or so, or no, not 8 months, until February. February, we had our first general body meeting. We drew in about 30 students. And today, we have, I think, 60 paid members or so, 50 or 60. We have over 100 come to our different events. We host different workshops, companies on campus. We do the whole 9. And, it's been a really great journey to see it evolve from 5 students leading into now a board of about 15 students. And I mean, now today I'm the president emeritus, and I've literally passed it on. I let them handle it. I help and advise where needed, but it's really nice, and it's amazing to see what started at 4 now, 60 members, and growing, and they're all doing amazing things. I mean, freshmen interviewing at Microsoft, that was unheard of my freshman year. I mean, they're flying out here, getting internships at Microsoft, at Bank of America, they're really amazing students, and you think my story is crazy? Wait 4 more years, and these freshmen are going to they're going to be dumping on me. I mean, they're really amazing students. I mean, so that was ACM that was started up. And so as far as what I do now on campus, since I said I passed it on. So also this past year, I was selected to be what's called a White House All-Star. And so this is a program for historically Black colleges where just around 60 or so students were selected from applicants at every HBCU. And basically we each have our own initiative on campus. And so my initiative is Computer Science for All, and I selected this to kind of branch off of President Obama's Computer Science for All. And my big thing is being able to impact students, both non-tech and tech, on campus and off campus in the community, and teaching them how to code and getting them more inclined with the future. And so if you don't know how to code in the next 10 or 20 years, you're kind of going to be out of place. Tech is really, really, taking over every industry. Every company needs coders. Every company has tech. And so being able to talk in a language that's, not normally taught is really, really, it's going to be game changing. So you're going to know English, but you also need to know a programming language. And so, what I've been doing is I've started this Python coding workshop. Python is a programming language, and I teach students inside the college of engineering and outside how to code Python. And so I started at the very basics, really simple stuff. And what I'm trying to do by the spring semester is, have everybody be able to build their own chatbot. Really, really, it sounds really, amazing. It's really not that hard. And so I'm taking this workshop series to be able to empower students and give them a skill set all for free. I'm not charging anybody. This is all my free, this is in my spare time, just going out of the way just to, give back and teach other students some of the skills that has helped give me some really huge opportunities. And so right now, this semester has been on campus. Next semester, I'm working with a few K through 12 organizations to really help impact the community as well. But all of this is a part of the White House HBCU All-Stars program. This really, really huge program that I would definitely recommend students apply for this next coming spring. So the last thing you hit on was the hackathon. So hackathons are they're crazy. It's a anywhere between 12 and sometimes 72 hours of problem solving. And so it can be technical, or it could be just a pitch competition, but simply you are given a problem to solve in X amount of hours with a team of generally between 3 or 4 students, or either college graduates or high schoolers even. And I've been going to hackathons since, I want to say, my sophomore year, spring of sophomore year. I went to my first hackathon right here in Greensboro at a art gallery, and I lost. I did terrible. It was bad. No, I'm sorry. That was my second one. My first one was in Charlotte, Hackathon CLT. I went there. I'll talk about that experience. So I went there. We took about 10 students from ACM. We went there. We were all gassed up. We've never been to hackathon. We about to go. We're just going to experience it. This hackathon was probably one of the classiest ones I've ever been to. I mean, they had wine. They had, cooked food. Like it was out of this world. We went in there.
Wine and cooked food, bro?
I mean, not pizza. I'm talking like fried chicken. I mean, like usually you get like, some pizza, some chips, water, but they had wine, alcohol. They threw it down in there. It was about 300 students from all across North Carolina. We get this problem. You have from 5 p.m. on Friday to 8 a.m. on Saturday to come up with a solution and to present it that next day.
Wow.
And we stayed up all night. The whole team was on my back, and around 3 o'clock in the morning, I gave up. Like I couldn't come up with anything. My mind was just blown. Like we were given millions of lines of data, and we were supposed to come up with a way to utilize that data to make some business more efficient. And I was blown. I'd never taken a database class. I had a little website I was trying to build, but I couldn't do anything with the data. So 3 o'clock, I'm over here. I'm just laying down and going to sleep. My team over here, They're gassed up on Red Bull, giggling and laughing, and just having a good time. We didn't win, but we had fun. So that morning, we got in the car and we drove back to Greensboro. We didn't even stay for presentations.
Y'all didn't stay for presentations?
We didn't stay. It was bad. It was that bad. Terrible. So that was my first hackathon. Really bad. So I went there, and I went to Thurgood Marshall College Fund Hackathon May 2016. This was my first crazy, productive hackathon. I came in second place. My team and I, 3 other amazing students who all were really great team members. We won Apple Watches. I still wear that watch every day now.
Quick question. So what adjustments did you make from the first one?
So, I mean, this time I knew more about what we were doing. So this hackathon was weird in that they were teaching a programming language and also hacking. So this one, we had to use Apple's programming language called Swift, and we had to build a iOS application. I had a little help because I had already used Swift before, and so that kind of helped me out a bit. Mm-hmm. But the simple thing was having that experience with what we were using, the tools that we were using. So, and I'll get into this with the more recent hackathons, but really the thing is you just need to have more experience and play around with different technologies prior to getting to the hackathon. And that's really going to help you out in that spare of the moment, 22 hours, 24 hours to come up with a great idea. And so we came out there, we came out in second place. We built this little kitty math app where you put in a problem that you can't solve. You put in the answer you think is right, and we're like, oops, you almost had it, but here it goes. The app was called Oops, a little math app. So really, really simple thing. We came in second place. It was a really great experience. This was another classy one hosted by Thurgood Marshall. I mean, they had us down in this real beautiful hotel in Atlanta, all expense paid.
Oh yeah, Thurgood Marshall do it big, bro. I ain't gonna lie. Who's the CEO, down. Man? He's a cool. I didn't get him on the podcast. What's his name again?
Say that again.
The CEO, Jimmy.
CEO. I can't remember CEO's name. I reference Scott Lilly a lot. He was over the program. Scott Lilly. He's a really cool dude. He's the one that created that program and worked a lot with also Apple Scholars. So I interacted with him personally quite a lot. So yeah, that was that. So school rolls back around fall of 16, and there's this huge hackathon called the Black Enterprise Tech Connect Be Smart Hackathon. Huge name. And so This is A&T's first year. This was A&T's first year being a part of this hackathon. And so we were one of 10 schools selected, HBCUs, and the chairman at the time of computer science at A&T selected myself and 3 other Aggies, Angelica Willis, Ashana Evans, and Olivia Bayer. And so the 4 of us, we've never been to this caliber of a hackathon. I mean, it's a nationwide thing. We flew us out to California. We get there. We don't know what to expect. And so leading up to the hackathon, we were given our problem. We had to come up with this in-car infotainment mobile application. I'm like, well, what the heck does that mean? And so we had to come up with some app that, could be used while you're in the car, essentially, and something that was going to be useful. And so one of the biggest sponsors was Toyota, and their motto is Let's Go Places. And so we came up with this app called Let's Go Black. And this app was an app that would allow a user to put in their current location, where they want to travel to, and then we create this specially curated road trip with stops at Black-owned businesses, African-American, historical monuments, and it really helps to get you more entwined with the Black culture. Mm-hmm. So it was really impactful on this Black seminar. This Black conference we were going to for the hackathon, and it meant a lot to the audience. And so that was one key thing right there. It was really impactful for the audience, knowing the audience. And so we get there and this hackathon is kind of weird. We get like 3 days. We got 3 days to come up with this app. And we had a lot of constraints. We had to use certain technical features. I don't want to get too far off, throw people off, but certain technical things we had to use that made it really, it was a lot of constraints. And so we ended up winning first place, and it was amazing. We had Angelica Willis. She's now at Stanford University. Really, that's like, that was my A&T idol. She was like all through everything. So she's at Stanford now, but she pitched it for us. And the video is somewhere on the web, but that was the first time like I had a really successful hackathon. I mean, we built this app in 3 days, sold it. Wow. And it was what set us apart. We were one of the only teams that had a full live demo. We didn't have a video recording. We were out there playing around with app. Now, I'm not saying every feature worked. It's not the goal to have every feature working, but the app itself was in a stage where we could present it, show our idea, and it was a proof of concept. And that really helped the judges to say, hey, this is the team that needs to win. Man. It was crazy. And so that hackathon, we walked away with a lot of different little things. Like we had tablets, another smartwatch, 40,000 flyer miles for American Airlines. It was crazy. It wasn't a cash prize, but it was a lot of really great prizes that, from a hackathon, this is beautiful.
I thought, so y'all didn't get 40. So y'all didn't get 40. So, this is last year.
Yeah, this is 2016. So
I forgot. Back to back. Okay.
Yeah. Now,
I don't want to hear about this never again.
Man, so yeah, let's fast forward. Spring of 2017, my chairman is like, we need a new team. We got to go back to this hackathon. We got to go again. We're the reigning champs. Mm-hmm. And
Golden State.
Myself, I'm like, okay, at the time, our team was 2 seniors and 2 juniors. Uh-huh. And, he wanted the 2 returning juniors to go back again. Mm-hmm. I'm the kind of person that I want to allow other students to get this opportunity. I don't want to do everything. Mm-hmm. And so I told them I didn't want to go. Mm-hmm. Just to be real, I didn't want to go to the hackathon again. A couple of reasons. That and because it was on GHO. Mm-hmm. This was my senior year GHO. I was going to have to miss it if I went to this hackathon.
And for those that are not familiar with A&T's homecoming, GHO is the greatest homecoming on earth.
The greatest. But yeah. So it was my senior year. I wanted some other students to experience it. And he told me, he said, when the NFL goes to the Super Bowl, they don't bench their star quarterback. Man, I couldn't even argue with that.
What are you supposed to say that? Like, man.
I mean, I'm completely honored to get that kind of compliment, but it's like, you can't even argue with that. I'm like, whatever. So we select 2 more students, and unfortunately the team was 4 seniors. And so, I didn't like that setup because I like to have it where 2 people can return every year who would experience it. But we ended up sending myself, returning student Olivier Bayer from the year before, Aaron Avery and Caleb Billy. So he's, our new squad or whatever,
And quick question. So this is random, but for those 4, right? So if you had to compare with Golden State, like who's the Steph, who's the Clay, who's the KD, and who's the Draymond?
And let's see. I'm not trying to be like, cocky or whatever, but I'll give myself Steph. I'll give Olivier, Katie. Who the other two you said?
Draymond and then Clay. Cause Clay, unconscious 3-point shooter, lockdown defender. Draymond just do everything.
I give Aaron Avery, Draymond, and I give Clay to Caleb Billy.
Uh-huh.
We're really a unique group. Everybody has different key features.
Like what would you label as one of the leaders of the group? What would you label? Cause this is critical. To when you have a team, be able to kind of idealize what everybody's strengths are. So what would you say is your strength and then everybody else's strength in that group?
I would say my strength, and this is, I guess, a kind of something I've done since freshman year, was really leading. Mm-hmm. And so when we first got selected, I created a group chat. I said, hey, we need to meet up, do this and that. When we got the actual idea or the project statement, so let's meet up, let's pitch this, let's do this. So I've always kind of been a leader. And my mom will say, when you were 2 years old, you used to boss me around. I call you my boss man. So, I don't want to say I'm a boss, but I like to lead. And so that's kind of like my strong point. And then, for my teammates, Aaron, he was doing our UI, our front end of the application. That was his big thing. And then we had Olivier working on the augmented reality. For those who don't know, it's kind of a blend between what's real and what's not, kind of laying some key things through your phone on a background of what's real. So it's kind of crazy concept. And then Caleb was working on our virtual reality. So this experience of being in a car from within your phone, really out of this world. So, we kind of picked 4 different areas to work on, and, we each stuck with that. So, we each had to realize our strength. Like Kayla, she's a great coder, but she's not the kind of person that's going to get on stage and talk. So that's not something, that wasn't her strong point, but her strong point, she could code. And so, everybody had their different areas. Aaron, like I said, was front end, and same thing with Olivier with his part. So that's what we took that and we ran with it. And so knowing what each team member is going to do up front is going to keep it to get organized once you get to the hackathon. You don't have to worry about, hey, I'm going to do this. You already know who's going to do what. And so when we got there, Toyota was one of the major sponsors, and they wanted us to take the car buying experience into the 21st century and utilize technology to make that experience better for customers. And so we created this chatbot / app called Tasha. And I mean, it was crazy how we came up with the idea. So my girlfriend actually worked at Toyota before, and she was telling me how inside the company they use these Japanese terms everywhere. So I was like, yo, that's cool. So how can we incorporate into our solution? And so I started Googling all these, Japanese phrases that had American meanings that made sense. And so Tasha, spelled Tasssha, means skillful in English. And so it meant so much because it was also a name that we recognized in the African American community as Tasha, Tasha, and it had a Japanese meaning and an American meaning that was just, it was crazy. It was just perfect. Wow. It started with a T, like Toyota. Look, it was just so many things that just fell into place. Mm-hmm. And we found that name and we took off with it. So we get there, like I said, it's about 3 a.m. event and we're working. They try to throw you off because there's like a lot of cameras in the background, filming and whatnot. But while we were on camera, you can look at our team. We're the only ones still coding. We're still working. They took us on a tech tour to visit companies, had my laptop on the bus. I'm still coding. And so we were set and focused on winning that grand prize. That was always our goal. We're going to miss homecoming, but we're going to win this $40,000. Mm-hmm. And so we went in there. Our plan was to win and nothing else. And so we got up there to pitch on the preliminary round. It was 15 schools, all HBCUs. And, literally we had to stop coding 3 hours before our pitch. We stopped coding at that 1 o'clock mark at the time they said stop coding. Mm-hmm. And it was really all God because the bot did not work before that 1 o'clock mark. And I mean, everything fell into place. And so when we got up there to pitch our first iteration of it, it was just perfect. I mean, Tasha was up here responding to me, doing everything we wanted her to do. And come to the final presentation in front of the big audience. I don't know what happened, but I mean, it was literally like pitching a new product release at a major tech company. That's how they described it to us. And when I saw the video of myself presenting, I had never done that before.
Mm-hmm.
I had never gotten on a stage in front of an audience that large, talked about a product or anything before. So this was all new to me also, and a little scary. I mean, if you watch the video, I even butchered A&T's name, and I apologize to Chancellor Martin about that immediately. I was like, yo, I'm so sorry. I was, freaking out. I said North Carolina Agricultural State or Agricultural Technical and State. It was so nasty. Like I just felt so bad. But after that, and then we got into it, and I was like, hey, Tasha. Tasha didn't respond to me.
Uh-huh.
I freaked out. Come to find out, the tech audio wasn't working. And so this audio guy comes out the corner of my eye, waves his hand. I was like, thank you, God. Like my heart dropped when she didn't respond. Like I just freaked out. And then next thing I know, a minute later, she's back up and running. And after that, it was smooth sailing. Like it was out of this world.
Wow. Yeah. I'll make sure I link the audience to the presentation. I've actually got it on my computer as well, but man, that's crazy. And I think two things I wanted to bring out that story that for anybody that's listening is the first, and I think one of the most pivotal things that I grab from it all is the power of a deadline.
Mm.
You had the first time you went around, you had from Friday at 5 p.m. to Saturday at 8 a.m., right?
Mm-hmm.
And then the next one was a 3-day. So in 3 days, you had to complete X and then present. At 24 hours, you had to do X and then present. And I think a lot of people out there that are losing, that are struggling with a lot of things because they have no deadline with what they're doing. And then those that have a deadline, they're not presenting it. So they're just chilling, or they're working, but they're always unsure. So rain, sleet, or snow, you had to get on that stage, regardless if it worked or it didn't work for the most part. Right.
Right.
So I think having that deadline, you was like, okay, cool. We're going to make it happen. You didn't say, oh God, they didn't give you a year. They didn't give you a year and a half. They didn't give you a year plus $1 million. They had, here's a limited amount of resources. Here is your team. Go do it. And I think there's so much power in putting a deadline, putting a time limit on something. Like if I say I'm going to do something by the weekend, I have to have the title. I have to have the title, and the Eventbrite has to be up, or something has to be done. Not, oh, I'm just going to think about this book, and your book been on the shelf for 12 years. You Lauryn Hill without the talent.
Right.
So I just challenge anybody out here. Don't just say, okay, oh, that was cool story for him. No, look what happened. Like creating those constraints, creating that deadline allowed them to make something that back-to-back years, first Apple Watches and flyer miles, then 40K. And then the next. So I think there's so much magic, because I know people that are trying, quote unquote, trying to create apps. They've been working on it for years. That are trying to write books. They've been working on it for almost a decade, and they're waiting for, I don't know what they're waiting for, but I think that's a very good testament. The second testament, which I think everybody can apply something from, is each time, one of the key things about that probably differentiated y'all was that y'all had a proof of concept. So y'all tried it out. Y'all had the app working. You were able to talk to Tasha. I looked on your video. You actually had like what it would look like if somebody got into a Camry. Mm. And what I see is a lot of people out here especially people that have ideas. That's why I don't even like ideas, to be honest. People bring, I'm gonna bring your idea, great. I don't want your idea, because you're bringing ideas with no proof of concept.
Right.
Like you haven't sold anything yet on it. You haven't done anything. You haven't even fleshed out the product, and you want somebody to invest. You want somebody, and not just invest money, invest time, invest resources, invest connection, invest social capital in something that you have an idea that you haven't had the decency to even create a proof of concept. I'm just challenging everybody out there to A, put a deadline on what you're working on right now, and two, sell something. Right. Create something, have something people can touch. I don't care. So that then you can validate somebody giving you their time, their resources, and their energy. And I'm gonna get off that footstool, but I think that's powerful. That's what I got from the whole experience. And I did want to, I'll be remiss if I didn't ask you, from your experiences with those hackathons, with these competitions, with these deadlines, and creating stuff in a hurry, what is your biggest takeaway that you got from it?
I mean, for me, it's weird and it's crazy, but I work best under pressure. And so you really hit on it, having deadlines. And so I think one of the only ways that as a person you can really be successful is to create your own if they're not given to you. Mm-hmm. And so having that pressure is what's going to make you and urge you to get it done. And that, and also knowing how to build the right team and how to work with that team. And so one of the biggest features, or one of the biggest assets that recruiters and companies like to see when you're in that interview process, is that teamwork thing. And that's the reason why, being able to collaborate and work with other people. And I think that's the essential key feature, besides you being able to code, besides you being able to work with Excel or whatever else. Being able to actually work with the team is what's going to set you apart.
I love that. I love that. I love that, man. So before we get into our last round, which is culture change round, I want to ask some questions about the future. But there's one question that I haven't asked yet, and I'll be remiss if I didn't. Throughout this journey, I mean, we see the success. To be honest, we see the Apple, we see the Microsoft, we see Sam's, we see, I mean, you name it. NASA, we see $40,000 winning hackathons, whatever. What has been one of the most challenging parts of this journey, and that you could share? And then what did you learn from it?
Most challenging part. Let's see. I think the most challenging piece, and it's a question that people always ask me, is really the time management. I've really watched myself evolve and how I actually keep track of things, and keeping up with, when am I going to do this, when I'm going to meet with this person. And, I think that's what really has helped me to get to where I am. And so when I first got here, the first thing I heard from someone in my department was, you can't do band and computer science because of the time constraint and what it's going to take to do both. And so I learned really quickly that you can't go to band practice, go party at night, and then try to go do your homework, because it's going to be 3 o'clock in the morning, time to get up the next day. So it's really a matter of being able to have that self-control, and the self-control to actually manage and tell yourself, this is what I can do, this is what I cannot do, and actually block your time off and to get organized. And so now, every time I set up this time with you, or I set up this meeting with this person, I put it on the calendar instantly. I put everything on my calendar. I put 2 or 3 alerts on it to remind myself, this time tomorrow, this time an hour from now, I've got to do this with this person, X, Y, Z. And so that's the only way I'm going to be able to stay on track and to keep doing what I'm doing in life.
Yeah, nah, I like that. But also too, I want to push a little bit on this. More so not from a tactical, if you can, and you don't got to share too much from a personal perspective, because I know there's a lot of other challenges outside of time management dealing that. What has been the most challenging personal perspective of dealing with just the expectations, the pressures you may be putting yourself, and just some of the responsibility you have as not only a leader, one of the leaders at North Carolina A&T, one of the leaders for Thurgood, one of the leaders for MOT, one of the leaders in any company you go to. You're going to be one of the few people of color there, specifically from an HBCU, specifically one that's younger, and then also for your family, being one of the first, setting the blueprint from your brother. So from that aspect, what has been the most challenging thing?
I guess always keeping in mind that people are always watching. And that because I have all of these responsibilities, I can't slack off like I would like to. And so I think this happens to, the best of us, if not all of us. It's like, you wake up and you say, hey, I don't want to do this today. Or, I don't want to go to this board meeting. I don't want to go to do this interview. But it's like, it is definitely challenging to keep yourself motivated and to keep pushing yourself to do X, Y, and Z. It's really easy to get into that real comfortable stage and say, I'm going to do the bare minimum. But if you really want to get to where you want to go, you have to do the extra. You have to go the extra mile. And so once you have so much responsibility, so many people watching you, your family's like, you're the first, what are you going to do next? What is your younger brother going to look up to? It's a lot. It is very challenging to keep pushing yourself and to continue to work hard. But one thing that you have to keep in mind is your why. Why are you doing this? Why are you going to college? Why are you getting the degree? And for me, one of my biggest whys is to help my parents become financially free. I told you my dad was an entrepreneur. However, we still have a lot as a family that we still have to do, financially to cover. And so, Brandon is now about to be out of the family and have his own, but that doesn't mean I'm going to leave my family behind. And so it's my responsibility, and that's my why. I want to make sure that my parents don't have to work every day for the rest of their life. I want to make them financially free, or, make them comfortable where they can, if they didn't want to work anymore, they don't have to work anymore. So that's one of my big whys, and why I do what I do.
Man. That's powerful, bro. That's powerful. So, as we transition to our final, almost our final round, I have one more question about the future, or one question about the future, man. Two actually. What's next for you personally? Not for you personally, but what's next? What should we expect from you in 2018, man? 2018.
2018 is going to be a pretty nice year. Definitely after graduation, like I mentioned, moving all the way across the country to Bellevue, Washington is going to be a journey. And joining Microsoft Corporation is going to be huge. Upon that, like you mentioned in the bio, I am going to be pursuing a master's in machine learning. I'm applying to a few online programs that I can pursue while working full time. And then from there is jump starting my career, getting into the groove of working actually full time as an employee without, going into class every day. It's going to be a little different, not working with my student orgs, but at that point, it's going to be working on orgs on a more professional level. So you mentioned I mentioned NSBE earlier. I'm a part of NSBE now. That doesn't mean I'm going to stop being a NSBE. Now it's going to be NSBE professional. Working within the company, a part of the Black employee resource group. You know what I'm saying? So it's really now more so working from a more professional standpoint, being able to give back to the community that got me to where I am and help to bring other students to surpass me.
Love that. And not to get morbid, but when it's all said and done, what do you want your lasting legacy to be?
My lasting legacy, I would really like that to be like, this was the guy that, although he did so much, he didn't just care about himself. He cared about other people. And so, on campus, I try to, exemplify that through all of the volunteer events that I do to help, educate students in what I did to get to where I am. And also by, doing other community service events in the Greensboro area. I would also like it to include that, this guy was very innovative. He's working to change the world, but to also, have an impact on our culture. There's a lot of technology happening, but there's not a lot happening to really impact the African-American society. And so I really want to be able to do that as a part of my legacy.
That's real, man. So let's jump into our last round, our most exciting round, our culture change round, where I ask a series of 5 rapid fire questions and I need 5 rapid fire answers, man. You ready?
All right, let's do it.
What's the best piece of advice that you have never received?
That I never received. Wow. I guess it would be that you need to pursue, internships during college. I didn't receive that prior to coming here, but had I had that mindset, maybe I would have started off at Microsoft. So having that mindset and that advice early on would have probably made things a lot different. And I want to give one more second one. If I would have known about coding when I was younger, that's some serious advice I think would have really changed a lot of things.
Love that, man. If you could add one habit and take away one habit, what would it be?
One habit that I've always tried to do is waking up and becoming a morning person. It's a lot easier when I get to the West Coast, but being on this East Coast, getting up early is a really hard thing to do for me. And so being a morning person is a habit that I wish I could add a lot easier. A habit that I would remove, I guess is saying yes too many times. Saying yes to obviously, I've got a really huge portfolio of experiences and whatnot. And so not knocking any of them, but sometimes it's okay to say no. And that's something it's saying yes is a really hard habit to break when you really enjoy doing a lot for other people.
Yeah, but luckily when you because when you say yes to something, but you're unfortunately saying no to something else during that time. So, right. But I would say one advice would be, luckily you're doing it now. You're doing a lot of yes now. So as you get down your career, now you can be like, cause I've said yes enough that it can kind of give you a pat on your back to say no, as you get going. So get all your yeses out the way now. Cause I'm telling you, the more you continue to climb from a worldly perspective, there's only going to be more so yeses. So when you graduate, that's when it's like, okay, you'll have enough mentors and other people in your ear to kind of give you some sound advice on that. But yeah, that's a different problem. What would you say is your favorite book and why?
My favorite book. I'm gonna talk about this gift I got from my birthday. So Like I mentioned my girlfriend earlier, and she's a very, very spiritual person. That's something I've been working a lot more in 2017 on. And so she bought me a daily devotional, and it's called Jesus Calling by Sarah Young. I really like to have this book every morning. It's a good way to get your day started, especially if you are a spiritual person. And I think this is probably one of my favorites right now. Aside from that, there are a few books that I'm in the process of working on. One is called The Lean Startup by Eric Rice.
Oh yeah, I love that one.
And one other one I just received is called The Mind of a Winner by Steve Canal. I got that one actually from that hackathon. So those are two books that I'm working on right now.
Love it, man. Love it. Love it. What would you say is your biggest fear?
My biggest fear? Not being able to impact as many people as I know I can. So, I mentioned earlier how hard it is to continue to have that drive and to pursue my legacy and whatnot. But I think my biggest fear is maybe one day, or maybe one morning, what if I lost sight of that? And what if I don't pursue anymore? So, a lot of people graduate from college and things change for them, and they're not where they thought they would be when they graduate. And so that's a fear for me. Not saying that it's going to happen, but it's just, you have that thought in your mind, like, what if I get out and I get too comfortable? It's a thought that crosses my mind sometimes. And that is a fear. But I still always keep in mind that why to continue to go in the opposite direction of that fear.
Yeah, nah, that's huge. That's huge. That's huge. And our last question before we get to our last defining, culture change question is, if you're the president of the United States, what is the first thing you would do?
President of the United States, huh? First thing I would do, I would stop like violence, like get rid of guns. I think that's something that's really, I mean, there's a really big debate on whether or not we need to have them, but I think that's one of the biggest issues right now. Our society is so busy hurting one another that we're not focused on helping each other. And I think if there was a way to remove that from our society, it would make things a lot different.
Man, say no more. Say no more, man. So that's a wrap for that culture change round, man. And as always, everybody that have on the show and everybody that comes on and everybody that's listening rather is a trailblazer in their own right. So, and a culture change agent. So this question is for that. If you could change one thing about society, most specifically our African American culture, what would it be and why?
If I could change one thing about our African American society, I think I would expose, if possible, I would expose everyone in our society to what is really available to us, because I think a lot of us don't realize that. And a lot of us don't realize that we actually already have what it takes to get to there. And so I think a lot of people I know in our society, they feel like they can't do this. They can't work at Apple. They can't work at Microsoft. They can't do this and that. But if I had a way, and that's part of this legacy I'm working to build, to really expose and show everyone in our society that no matter where you come from or where you are in your life, you can still be successful, and no matter what you want to do.
Everybody already has the tools.
Right. Exactly.
Man, so yo, B, it has been a phenomenal, transformative interview that I know is going to touch a lot of lives, touch a lot of students, touch a lot of parents and young adults, seasoned professionals, you name it, from all cultures, not just people of color. So, man, I appreciate, because I always want to make sure that while I only interview people of color, that a lot of people are benefiting from this content. And I don't want to say your accomplishments, that things that the creator that you serve has allowed you to do are big just because you're a person of color. Nah, this is stuff that any student anywhere on any country on any planet would have to strive and do a lot of stuff to be able to do, man. So I never want to minimize our accomplishments as a culture, and specifically your accomplishments from the vein of a black student, just a student in general. that is, took advantage of the opportunities that were given to him, worked extremely hard, learned, took the L's when he had to, but utilized those L's to make dubs. And I appreciate your time, man. So if you could just share, where people can find you at online, etc. But also too, I didn't ask, but I know you utilize a lot of different resources, like maybe via websites or whatever. So if there's any resources or programs, etc., that you have utilized throughout your experience that can help some parents, help some students, help some young professionals out there, please do share. Yeah.
So, there are numerous ways that you can really get more in contact with like tech resources. And a few of them that I use were codeacademy.com, Coursera.org, and Udacity. As far as actually preparing for technical interviews, so really big ones are hackerrank.com, LeetCode, and this book, they call it like the Bible of tech interviews. It's called Cracking the Coding Interview. No matter, what recruiter you talk to, they're going to tell you to get that book. It's really a great book to have, especially if you want to pursue a career as a software engineer in technology. So I said those are all three really great resources aside of the websites I mentioned. As far as getting in contact and following me, I have a website. It's BrandonLLong.com. That's 2 L's. Also on Instagram at BrandonLLong_ and Facebook Brandon Long. Like I said, I'm accessible pretty much everywhere. I'm on Twitter, but mostly Instagram is where I'll be at. And again, at my website, you can reach me there.
All right, cool. And you also find them on LinkedIn.
Oh yeah, definitely. LinkedIn. Connect with me.
No doubt, man. So from the bottom of my heart and my Know the Trailblazer heart, man, we want to say a couple things. One, keep doing what you're doing. And two, for all my listeners out there, for everybody that's listening right now, stop your car and say, what? Change the freaking culture. Good night.